All right, we were talking about last time the latest time that you could daven Shacharis. So, first we talked about the earliest time, then we're talking about the latest time. So the latest time is 4 hours in the day, which is a third of the day. And we said that the hours, it doesn't mean 60 minutes. An hour, the way it's figured out is you have the length of the daylight hours divided by 12, and then 4 of those. So, like in the summer, the hour is going to be longer, than the winter because the days are shorter. So the time is will.
Hanging in there. Good, Ramon. You look stronger than ever.
Wait till they.
I think so.
So Harold Combs.
Yeah, I'll tell.
Keep on hoping.
Keep on
Keep on hoping.
He's not at home.
All right.
All right, give the shit.
We're talking about the latest time you could daven in the morning, that you could daven Shacharis. So the latest time is after 4 hours go by. That's when you're supposed to daven, and if you daven at that time, you get the mitzvah of davening and the proper time. Now, if for some reason you weren't able to daven past the 4th hour, you can daven until midday. But after midday, you can't daven Shacharis anymore.
That would be like 12 o'clock.
So that's what we were just discussing. It depends, like we mentioned, that the hours of the day. When we say hours of the day, we don't mean 60 minutes. What they do is they take from sunrise to sunset, let's say, and you divide it by 12, and each of those things is an hour. So it could be, if it's in the summer, it could be like an hour is an hour and 20 minutes. If it's the winter, it could be an hour is 45 minutes. So 4 of those hours, that's the latest time you can daven. So how do you figure that out? It's very hard. So I printed this out to show everybody. You can get this online. You type in the zip code, you have Englishtown, New Jersey, and it's got every time, right? For instance, here, the latest time you could say Shema, and it has every day of the month. Then you got the latest time you can daven Shacharis, and it does all the math for you. It's called myzmanim.com.
Yeah, I go to that site. I never printed that out.
I asked you last week, how late could you put on tefillin?
You can put on tefillin until Shkia, which, what's today? It's past, the Rosh. Okay, so that would be about 5:58. That's when sunset is. The sunset's right. Now it's like pretty even, right? 5:58. That's about. Also, it's about 5:58 also. Chassidim daven. Sometimes people daven later, but you really shouldn't.
Now, what about the Shema? What's the latest?
So Shema, that's the end of the first 3 hours. So that was today, like 9:20. 10:02. That was 10:02 today. Right.
Now, what would it be Monday with turning the clocks back?
So probably go an hour early. You got to check. You got to check. This only goes up to. But you're right. When you turn the clocks back, all the hours change. They get all messed up. Not messed up. It's just different. So you got to go myzmanim.com and you type in 07726, and it'll give you all the times for Englishtown.
After Sunday.
And you could do it for the day, or you could you get one for the whole month.
Change the clocks, then I'll do
Yeah, but they'll give, if you print it out for the whole month, it'll be accurate. For one. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask you one more
Yeah,
question?
sure.
About Howard Combs. Did you speak to him?
Yeah.
Does he have his number?
He still had the same personality. I don't think he didn't remember me. I'm not sure if he. But he's making jokes.
He used to make the breakfast in the morning with Crystal on.
Right? Right.
Yeah, you're so you.
Following those footsteps.
It's a chus. He's 98. You got
That's why I told him.
It's a big mitzvah.
Yeah, he was making a breakfast. I make breakfast. I make a dinner at Union Hill, and I make lunch in this place once a week. I made a barbecue. I bought a machine. They put it in.
You recognize
my
him?
customer.
Yeah, sure.
He was my first customer.
But he didn't remember you. He couldn't.
I'm not sure.
You were a little kid.
Yeah, I was only like 12, 13 when I knew him.
You were 13 years old.
Yeah, the lady didn't believe that I knew him. I was like, of course I know him.
Good week.
But he's same. All right. So what happens if you don't daven Shacharis and it's midday? So the Ramah writes, "V'achar chatzos asur lehispal tefillah Shacharis." You're not allowed to daven Shacharis after midday, right? So that's what this time says here is.
25 cents.
It's what do you say? So you got midday. You go to midday here. Right, midday, and today that was about 1:11. So
So if it's 2 o'clock, And for some reason, you can put on tefillin, then you can daven mincha.
Right, you can put on tefillin daven mincha, but you can't daven shachris anymore.
Oh, but you daven mincha.
Right. But what you do is that if you forgot, if you miss chakras by mistake, let's say you overslept or you were doing right something like that, you daven mincha first, and then you daven a second Shemona Esrei as a replacement for chakras to make it as a makeup. If you did it on purpose, then there's no makeup. But if you did it by accident,
You do mincha twice?
you do mincha twice. The first one is for mincha, and the second one counts to make up chakras. The reason we do that is because davening, you get a lot of mercy from Hashem, so you don't want to miss it. You're right, getting the mercy from Hashem.
That works the same way. If you miss mincha and you go to Mara, do the Mara, and then you do the mincha, the meter for the mincha.
Right.
It's the same
Right.
thing.
See that?
Okay, so that what I just read there was the Ramah. Now I'm going to read the Mishnah Berurah, which is explaining that. That's the Chavetz Chaim, which we were talking about. It says even if it's right after midday, a second after, you can't daven shachris anymore. He says actually there are some people that are lenient that allow you to daven shachris a half hour after midday. Now, what is significant about a half hour? When's the earliest time to daven mincha? No, the earliest time to daven mincha is a half hour after midday, not at midday. You're not allowed to daven mincha. Right, let's say it's an even day where sun rises at 6 a.m. and sets at 6 p.m., which is just like once or twice a year. So midday will be 12. You can't daven mincha at 12. You can only daven mincha at 12:30. Right now, you're not. So some say you're able to daven shachris until the time switches from Shachris to Mincha, meaning it goes all the way till Shachris until 12:30, and then 12:30 is Mincha. But we don't go like that. We have this like black area where you can't daven anything. Until 12 you could do Shachris, from 12 to 12:30 nothing, and then 12:30 you got Mincha. Right, you can't do anything there. So Uladina, but the halacha. So what the Mishnah Berurah does here is he'll bring you other opinions, but then he'll usually tell you at the end what the halacha is. Uladina mashma prima gadim v'derech haim she'ein lazim b'psak harav. He says you shouldn't daven Shachris after 12. No matter what. The Vilna Gaon actually holds like that also. The Be'emes kfar hegiz man mincha shemascheles metchila sheva ela mitam she'enanu bikim v'shem yavolitos v'kenas v'chazal ken kishagar nenas. So what he's saying is, what's the reason? He says, what's the reason that you can't daven shachris after 12? He says, really, technically, you're allowed to start davening mincha from 12 to 12. Why don't we do that? We don't do that because maybe you'll make a mistake and it won't really be after 12. It'll be like 11:59, 11:58. So the rabbi said, be safe and don't daven until 12:30. So really, since 12 to 12:30 is essentially mincha time, we're just stringent not to do that. Therefore, you're not allowed to daven shachris then, because you can't be davening shachris when it's mincha time. So you only do shachris till 12 o'clock.
Is that the same now? But we turn the clocks back. So
Right. I was just using 12 o'clock as an example. So let's take today. Today midday was 1:11. Right?
Right.
I'm sorry. It's 12:40. I apologize. 12. Oh, but it makes sense. 12:40 was midday. Right. So here he has the earliest time you can daven mincha is 1:11. Which 31 minutes 30, about 30 minutes after, right? Because you can't daven. Really, you could daven mincha at 12:41, but the rabbi said you gotta be careful. You could only because you might make a mistake if you daven at 12:40. Right? They didn't have like atomic clocks back in the day. You're not going to know when the sun's exactly whatever. So you gotta wait till a half hour. So you could only daven shachris till 12:40, and you can only daven mincha from 1:11. Now, if you wake up, you slept really late, and it's 12:42, can't daven shachris. Okay. Then he says, what do you do? Let's say you forgot to daven shachris. You wake up, it's 12:42. You just missed it. What do you do? Wait till 1:11 till mincha time. V'yispal mincha, daven mincha, like you said before. V'achakach shachris b'toras hashlama, and then daven a second time, which will count for shachris. V'lo lehepach, but you can't do the opposite. Whenever you daven to make it up, the first one's got to be for the service now, and the second one is to make up for the one you missed. Do not daven the first one as a makeup, and the second one for mincha. Then it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. You got to do mincha now, and the second one was a makeup. V'gam davka b'shaga going nenas avulmezid ein lo takana, and like we said, it's only if you missed davening by mistake or there was circumstances beyond your control. But if you did it on purpose, you were just watching the game and you didn't feel like davening, you're like, who cares? Then there's no makeup. We're going to talk about that more later. What about b'diavad? Let's say you never learned this halacha before. You got up at 12:42. It's after chatzos, and you daven shachris. You did it already. Is that any different? You call the rabbi. Do you have to daven shachris again? Does it count? Does it count or not? So Mishnah Berurah says chatzos yatsa. Vein tzarich is palshini. He says if you did it, it counts. Now, fine. Okay, fine. Look there, and that's the finish. We finished Sif Aleph. That's the first Sif of the Mishnah Berurah. That's the latest time you could daven Shachris. So let's go on to the next Sif. He's going to talk about here stuff you're allowed to do before davening and what you're not allowed to do before davening. Talking about Shachris. So the beginning there's going to be a bunch of opinions, but at the end we'll get what the final halacha is. But he's going to talk about a bunch of opinions first. Kevin shehegia zman tefila aser la'adam lahaktim lepesach haver litin l'shalom mishum deshmo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu shalom aval muter lomer lo tzafar demari tav. He says. He says that before davening, once the time to daven shachris starts, which technically is from dawn. So this morning dawn was at about 6:11. So you wake up at 5. I know everyone here gets up very early. I think everyone, my father gets up at like 5. You get up probably also at 5. Yeah, okay. Everyone here gets up at 5. So you get up at 5 and you could do all this stuff. But let's say you're normal, like me, and you get up after 6:11. So before you go to daven, can I go to my friend's house to say shalom to him? You're not allowed to do that. Now,
Are you allowed to eat before you daven shachris?
No, if it's once it gets to the time where you're able to daven, you're supposed to say hello. You're supposed to speak to Hashem before you go and say hello to other people. Right? Yeah. So if you get up at 5, it's not time to daven yet. So it's okay. You can go to your friend's house and say shalom.
But if you get up at 7 o'clock,
right,
you got to daven shachris
first.
Before you even look up something on the internet.
Oh, we'll talk about that. First, he's just talking about saying hello. Now, does this mean that when you walk to shul in the morning, you can't say hi? We'll talk about that. But
you get up, right? So before I leave the house, when I go to shul, I daven Modi and Nidif.
Right.
It's part of the all the prayers that I'm saying over there. So those things are the prerequisites to getting gas when you leave the house. Before you daven with the minyan.
Right. But this means Shmona Esrei. There's a few things that were a little more lenient on if you said some of the brachas first.
Yeah.
But in general, all these halachas means the Shmona Esrei of Shachris. Whenever we talk about davening, we mean the Shmona Esrei usually. So if you didn't do Shmona Esrei yet, you can't drive over to your friend's house. So let's say you just came back from a trip and say Shalom Aleichem.
What can you do before you put on tefillin?
Because you want to borrow that.
Say it should be the same things here. The same things we're discussing here
Have to
will be
walk.
the same.
You can't eat breakfast and then put on tefillin.
Right, you can't eat breakfast. There's a couple situations where you could, but in general, no. If you're like a normal, healthy person, you should not. So we're gonna get. Can you have flavored coffee? Can you have soda? We'll see. That's all going to be discussed now. So shalom you're not allowed to do, and the reason is because the word shalom actually is Hashem's name. Right? Like if you're in the bathroom, you shouldn't say the word shalom because it's one of Hashem's name.
You can't say.
Cannot. So here it's talking about specifically shalom. You shouldn't say, and he says even good morning. You shouldn't go out of your way before shul to go to your friend's house to say shalom or to say good morning. Right? We're going to find that the word shalom, since it's Hashem's name, it's more stringent about what you're allowed to do. It's also forbidden to you're not allowed to bow. They used to bow when they greeted each other, like the Japanese do. So if you go, you're not allowed to go to your friend's house and say hi and bow to him. Some say even if you bump into your friend in the street, you don't go to his house. But if you just bump into him, you also should not bow. So this might be like if you're a Japanese, in Japan, in Tokyo, doing business, and you see someone in the street, maybe you shouldn't be bowing before you get to the Chabad house to daven. Now, if you said the brachos, that's what Arnie was saying. You don't have to worry so much. Now, when you say, what does that mean? You don't have to worry so much about what? But let's say you're not going to your friend's house. You're walking to shul, or you're just pulled up in the parking lot, and you see your friend in the parking lot going to the minyan also. Then you're allowed to say shalom. V'yesh omrim she'afilu b'motzi chaver b'shuk lo yamar lo el atzafar demari tov k'dei shitin leiv shehu aser lehisakev v'dvar macherim klal chispal. Because some say, this is really what we paskin preferably, is that if you bump into your friend before davening, you shouldn't say the word shalom. You could say hi. You could say good morning, but you shouldn't say shalom. And the reason is because you want to make it recognizable that you really shouldn't be having a big conversation before davening, right? You're just allowed to say hi.
There's a prayer you're supposed to say as soon as you get up, that Hashem brought your soul back to you.
Right.
Right? That you say that all. If you get up 2-3 times a night, do you keep saying that?
I don't think so.
Huh?
I don't believe so.
I do. I'm just wondering.
No. If you're thankful getting up, then I guess why not? But I don't.
When you get my age, you get up a couple of times a night.
Yeah. Even I drink a lot, so I also get up a couple times a night. But drink a lot of coffee.
You'll see.
No, I get up a few times.
I get up every 2 hours.
Yeah, I get up probably.
12, 10. I go to sleep 10.
That's up. So now we said Zman Tefillah. So now that was what we just read. Now that was the Shulchan Aruch. Now what about the Mishnah Berurah? So he's going to explain. Now what does it mean Zman Tefillah? So I explain a little bit. Hainu me'amar shachar. That means from dawn. All these things that we're talking about. Hello, go to your friend's house. Shalom. That you're not allowed to do from dawn. Lahaktim. V'hu adinim holech b'beis haKnesses mimakam hakavu lo l'makam chaver litin lo shalom. Okay, you're also not allowed to go. Okay, fine, we said that already. Not only your friend, but your father or your Rebbe. Let's say your father's in town, right? You haven't seen, you live at different places. Even your father, right? There's a big mitzvah to honor your father and mother. You're still not allowed to go to his house before davening to say shalom. What about this? What about if you have a guy who's going to beat you up? And if you don't say hi to him, they used to have these things, you see like, you lived in the non-Jewish town, if you didn't say hi to the prince or whatever you had to do, they would kill you. So what about that? If you can give him a handshake without saying shalom, that's the best thing to do. But if you run into him in the street, then you could say shalom if you're like fear for your safety or something. But we really don't have have that unless you're like in high school and it's like a school bully who's going to beat you up or something and take your lunch money. Now what's the reason you can't say shalom to somebody? Because that's the name of Hashem, and you can't honor another human being before you honor Hashem. Right? The first thing that we have to have in mind when we get up in the morning is to honor Hashem. You can't go around honoring other people. Now what about if you greet someone and you say Haracham Yerachemcha, the merciful one should have mercy upon you, right? You're a very religious guy and you give these blessings to people. You're allowed to do that? So that he says, yeah, because you're like using Hashem to bless the person, so you're not honoring another human being before you're honoring Hashem. That's the whole reason. The whole reason for all these halachas, these laws, we want to honor Hashem before we honor somebody else. Now, what if you have you're passing your friend's house, and you want to check. You have a business deal, and you want to check you have a construction site. Let's say you're a realtor, and you want to check the property before you go to shul. So you're allowed to drive by the property to check. Now, what if it happens to be next door to the property? Your friend lives there. Can you say hello in that case? That case is okay because you were going there anyway, right? You were going. You weren't going just to say hi to your friend. You were going to really check the property. And since your friend is there, you're allowed to say hello to him before davening. But you shouldn't say shalom. He's going to discuss later, and he says it means check out the property. You're not actually out to do work, right? You can't go to, you're a construction worker. You can't go to the construction site and start doing stuff before davening. All you're allowed to do is to go and check it out. See, okay, make sure that everything's in order. Stuff didn't get stolen over the night. That you could do, but you can't actually do work. Okay, fine. Okay. Now, what if your friend says shalom to you? Can you say shalom back? That's okay, because you don't embarrass the guy already, right? We're just dealing with. Okay. Now, now, what if you davened? You go to the early minyan. You get up at 5 a.m., but someone like me doesn't get up at 5 a.m. Can you come to my house to say shalom to me if you davened but I didn't? So that you're allowed to do because you already blessed Hashem. So you can come say shalom to me. That's fine. Now, so we learn.
How about on Shabbos? Two people. I'm sorry. Someone going to shul. People going to different shuls. So there's a thing. You're not supposed to pass someone without.
Right.
So I know he hasn't davened. I haven't davened either.
Right. So if you run into somebody, let's get the final halacha and talk about your case first. The final halacha, the best thing to say if you run into somebody. Right. Good morning is totally fine. You bump into somebody, to say good morning, that's fine. To go out of your way to someone's house, you shouldn't do that to say good morning. Now, the question is, bumping into somebody in the morning to say the word shalom, because that's the name of Hashem, that's more stringent. Are you allowed to do that? So technically, according to the letter of the law, that's okay, but preferably you should say good morning. Now, it says your case, if you said brachos in the morning, then you could say shalom even when you bump into him. So now, we have
I could say it, but he might not be. Like if I did it wouldn't be because I'd be out in the street. It wouldn't.
Oh no, you said.
So is there an advantage? I want to ask now. I'm just thinking of this now. You brought it up. I don't know the answer. If you bump into somebody on Shabbos, is it better to say good Shabbos because you don't say the word shalom versus saying Shabbat Shalom and you're saying Hashem's name?
Right.
Let's ask somebody. Let's get Rabbi Bresson.
I know he asked. I said good Shabbos.
Rabbi Shulman. Rabbi Shulman.
Oh, yeah.
Busy. Okay, we'll have to clarify. Can we ask you a question?
I would love to hear your question.
This is Arnie's question. Arnie's question. You're walking to shul Shabbos morning. You didn't daven yet. Now you
in the coffee room,
right? And you see somebody. Is it better to say good Shabbos than saying Shabbat Shalom because Shalom is Hashem's name? And there's chumrah. Yeah, we're more machmer.
Here, Shalom, top to bar top.
Right? Is it better? I heard one said Shabbos is also Hashem's name, like kabbalistically or something. I don't know. Okay, we'll have to do research. We'll have to do research.
I
But
like your question. I do not know.
at the first glance, I would think that Shabbat Shalom is not as good. You should say good Shabbos. All right. So this is a good stopping point because we're at the next halacha, which is going to be we're going to talk about next. Are you allowed to go on a trip before davening? Are you allowed to eat before davening? If so, what? And it should be fun.
Murray, he's going to see Harold again, so maybe you give him a message if you want to tell him something. Harold.
Yeah, I should.
See him again. He goes there.